Imagine this. You're a four-star general in the United States Army. You've led troops in war zones, advised presidents, earned medals most can only dream of. You're driving through a small Louisiana town on a critical mission when you pull over to take a secure call from the Pentagon. Just another day, right? Except today, everything changes. In the eyes of two local cops, you're not a general, you're not even a person. You're just a black woman on a phone, and that's enough for them to rip your dignity apart. This is the story of General Naomi Ellsworth, a hero who faced the ugliness of racial profiling and turned it into a reckoning that shook the nation. One phone call to the Pentagon didn't just destroy those officers' careers. It exposed a truth we can't ignore. Injustice has no hiding place when courage picks up the phone. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive into stories that inspire, educate, and spark change. Today's story is about a moment that could have been swept under the rug but instead became a national wake-up call. It's about General Naomi Ellsworth, a black woman who rose to the top of the U.S. military, only to face the kind of prejudice too many know all too well. This isn't just her story. It's about power, accountability, and what happens when you refuse to stay silent. Let's get into it. It was a humid summer day in 2024, somewhere between Lake Charles and Shreveport, Louisiana. The kind of place where the air sticks to your skin and time feels like it's standing still. General Naomi Ellsworth, a four-star general with 29 years of service, was driving a rental car through this sleepy stretch of highway. No entourage, no flashing lights, just her, a plain sedan, and a deadline. She was headed to Barksdale Air Force Base for a classified briefing, the kind of meeting that shapes national security. But first, she needed to make a call. A secure call. The kind only a handful of people in the world are cleared to hear. Naomi pulled into the cracked parking lot of Kelly's Fuel and Food, a rundown gas station in a tiny town called Mosswood. It wasn't much: faded signs, rusty pumps, a few locals leaning on pickup trucks, swapping stories in the heat. She parked off to the side, away from the crowd, and stepped out to get better reception. She raised her secure phone and said, "General Ellsworth, verifying identity, initiating briefing." Her voice was low, professional, all business. On the other end, a Pentagon officer began relaying sensitive information, troop movements, real-time orders, stuff that doesn't wait. Naomi wasn't in her dress uniform. No medals, no stars on her shoulders. She wore jeans, sneakers, an olive jacket, and a ball cap, looking like anyone else, just a woman in her early 40s making a call. That's how she wanted it. As a general, she knew the value of blending in during sensitive operations. But in Mosswood, blending in wasn't enough, because to some, she didn't belong. Period. Inside the gas station, a woman named Paula Sweeney watched from behind the counter. Mid-50s, tight blonde bun, a permanent scowl etched into her face. Paula didn't see a general. She didn't even see a woman on a phone. She saw what her biases told her to see: trouble. Without hesitation, Paula picked up the landline and dialed the Mosswood Police Department. "Yeah, we got a suspicious woman out here by the pumps," she whispered, her voice dripping with judgment. "Real shady. Might be on drugs or something. Y'all better come check it out." She hung up before they could ask questions, satisfied she'd done her part. Across town, two officers, Randall Cooper and Shane Delaney, heard the call over their radio. Mosswood wasn't a hotbed of crime, and they were bored. A suspicious woman? That was enough to get them moving. They jumped into their cruiser, sunglasses on, ready to stir up some action. Meanwhile, Naomi was still on her call, focused, unaware the trouble was speeding her way. Let's pause for a second to unpack what's happening here. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a textbook case of racial profiling. Racial profiling happens when someone is targeted by law enforcement or others based on their race, ethnicity, or appearance, rather than actual evidence of wrongdoing. Studies, like one from the ACLU in 2020, show Black Americans are disproportionately stopped, searched, and arrested compared to their white counterparts, often for vague reasons like suspicious behavior. In Naomi's case, she was doing nothing illegal, just standing by her car, making a call. But to Paula and the officers, her presence was enough to raise suspicion. And that's where this story takes a turn. Naomi noticed flashing lights in the distance. Her call was mid-sentence, but she lowered the phone as a cruiser screeched to a stop, gravel flying. Officers Cooper and Delaney jumped out, hands on their holsters. Cooper, a tall, buzz-cut guy in his mid-30s, unhooked his holster with a flick. Delaney, younger and leaner, mirrored him, his eyes gleaming with eagerness. They weren't here to ask questions, they were here to make a point. Naomi, trained to stay calm under pressure, placed her phone on the hood of her car, keeping her hands visible. "Good afternoon, officers," she said, her voice steady, like she was addressing troops. "How can I help you?" Cooper barked. "License and registration." Now. Naomi reached slowly for her wallet, her movements deliberate. "Absolutely. My ID is right here. I'm active duty military, General Naomi Ellsworth, on official business." Delaney scoffed, rolling his eyes. "General? You expect us to believe that?" Naomi handed over her military credentials and federal travel orders, official documents with seals, signatures, everything. Cooper snatched them, barely glanced at the papers, and tossed them onto the hood like garbage. "This is fake," he said, shaking his head. Naomi blinked, stunned. "Sir, I assure you." "Shut up," Delaney snapped. "You think you can play us, lady? You picked the wrong town." A crowd was forming now, gas station workers, customers, random drivers who decided this was better than reality TV. Some whispered, some laughed, but no one stepped in. Naomi's training told her to de-escalate, but her instincts told her these officers weren't looking for answers. They'd already decided who she was, or rather, who she wasn't. "Please contact your supervisor." Naomi tried again, her voice low but firm. "You're making a serious mistake." Cooper laughed, pulling out his cuffs. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Naomi didn't move, not out of defiance, but because something inside her broke. Not fear, not anger, but a deep, heavy realization. After 29 years of service, leading soldiers in combat, advising the highest levels of government, she was being reduced to a stereotype. "I am a general in the United States Army," she said, her voice sharp now. "You are unlawfully detaining me." Cooper laughed again, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Yeah, and I'm the president." "Turn around." Before Naomi could say another word, Delaney grabbed her arm, yanking it behind her back. Cooper snapped the cuffs on, tight enough to pinch her skin. Naomi's phone, still connected to the Pentagon, clattered to the ground, the officer on the other end shouting her name. But Cooper and Delaney didn't care. They shoved her against the car, hard enough to rattle the door. "Got her," Delaney said, like they'd just won a prize. In that moment, Naomi wasn't a general. She wasn't even a person to them. She was just someone to be thrown around because they could. The crowd kept watching, some filming on their phones, but no one stepped up. Paula, the gas station manager, stood by the door, smirking like she'd orchestrated the whole thing. But what none of them knew was that the Pentagon was already sounding the alarm. Back at the Pentagon, Lieutenant Commander Bryce Hanley stared at a blinking line labeled Gen Ellsworth Secure. The audio feed had gone from routine to chaotic in seconds, scuffling, shouting, then static. "General Ellsworth, this is Command Operations. Do you copy?" Bryce called into the mic. No answer. He glanced at his supervisor, Colonel Dana Sharp, who was already striding across the room. "Ping her location," Sharp ordered. "Right now." A technician pulled up a map, zeroing in on a blinking dot. "Kelly's Fuel and Food, Mosswood, Louisiana." A place so small it barely registered. Sharp's jaw tightened. "Get Barksdale Security on the line. Patch me through to JG. If something's happened to Naomi, we're moving now." Let's take a quick moment to explain something. A secure military line, like the one Naomi was using, is a highly encrypted communication channel for sensitive information. Dropping a call like that isn't just a glitch, it's a national security issue. The Pentagon doesn't mess around when a 4-star general goes silent. And Naomi's silence was about to turn Mosswood upside down. Back at the gas station, Naomi sat on the curb, wrists aching from the cuffs. Delaney leaned over her, sneering. "What's your real name? Who you working for?" Naomi exhaled slowly, her voice calm but unyielding. You have my ID, my travel orders. Everything you need is right there. Cooper snorted. Lady, you're about 2 seconds from being booked for obstruction. Naomi said nothing. She wasn't going to beg. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw people filming, whispering, Paula still smirking by the door. The situation was spiraling, and no one seemed interested in stopping it. Then Delaney's radio crackled. Unit 3, confirm you have detained subject. Cooper grabbed it. Affirmative. Female, early 40s, refusing to cooperate. A pause then. Be advised, subject is flagged federal. Repeat, flagged federal. Pentagon has initiated emergency contact. Release immediately and await further orders. The blood drained from Cooper's face. Delaney's smug grin vanished. Naomi, still cuffed, just stared up at them, waiting. Cooper fumbled with his keys, muttering something half apologetic, but it was too late. Naomi stood, flexing her wrists, and picked up her cracked phone. You're going to regret this, she said quietly. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. As if on cue, a convoy of black SUVs from Barksdale Air Force Base screeched into the lot. Lieutenant Colonel Darren Mosley led the team, his eyes locked on Naomi. General Ellsworth, are you injured? He asked, his voice carrying authority. No, Colonel, Naomi replied. Minor abrasions. The bigger injury was to their careers. Mosley turned to Cooper and Delaney, his face like stone. You are hereby ordered to stand down pending federal investigation. You had documentation in your hand. You had everything you needed. Delaney tried to argue. She was acting suspicious. Mosley cut him off. You saw a black woman on a phone and made a choice. That's going to follow you for the rest of your life. As the SUVs pulled away, Naomi glanced back at Cooper, wiping sweat from his brow, and Paula, scurrying inside like she'd seen a ghost. Inside the vehicle, Colonel Mosley broke the silence. Pentagon's coordinating a full investigation, ma'am. Internal Affairs, Civil Rights Division, it's going public. Naomi didn't nod or smile. They should have known better, she said simply. Mosley nodded. They're going to find out what it feels like to be seen for who they really are. By morning, Mosswood wasn't just a dot on the map, it was a national scandal. Someone had posted cell phone footage online. Grainy video of two cops handcuffing a calm, composed black woman who identified herself as a general. The clip went viral, racking up millions of views. News networks ran it on loop. Civil rights leaders called it racial profiling. Veterans groups demanded justice. Hashtags like Justice for Naomi trended worldwide. The Mosswood Police Department scrambled to save face. Chief Vernon Grady, sweating through a press conference, mumbled about a misunderstanding. But a reporter from Baton Rouge wasn't having it. Chief, why couldn't trained officers recognize valid military credentials? Was race a factor? Grady had no answer, and the world noticed. Racial profiling isn't just a personal injustice, it's a systemic failure. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Black Americans are 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than white Americans, often due to biased policing practices. Incidents like Naomi's aren't isolated, they're part of a pattern. And when that pattern targets someone like a 4-star general, it exposes just how deep the problem runs. Naomi wasn't done. She could have stayed silent, let the Pentagon handle it. But she knew this wasn't just about her. It was about every person who's been doubted, dismissed, or degraded because of their skin. So she stepped up to a podium at Barksdale Air Force Base, in her dress uniform, medals gleaming, and spoke her truth. My name is General Naomi Ellsworth, she began. I've served this country for 29 years, leading soldiers, advising presidents, defending the Constitution. Yesterday in Mosswood, Louisiana, none of that mattered. I was judged not by my character, not by my uniform, but by the color of my skin. Her words hit like a thunderbolt. She wasn't speaking for the cameras, she was speaking to every person who'd felt that same sting of prejudice. I'm not here for an apology, she said. I'm here because silence is not an option. Accountability matters. Respect matters. Human dignity matters. And none of these are negotiable. As Naomi stepped away from the podium, the applause grew into a roar. Black families, veterans, students, people who saw themselves in her story, held signs and clapped, their hope palpable. Naomi didn't just expose injustice, she lit a spark. The investigation rolled on, with Cooper and Delaney facing federal charges. The Department of Justice got involved, and Mosswood's police department was forced to reckon with its history of complaints. General Naomi Ellsworth didn't just survive that day in Mosswood, she turned it into a moment of truth. Her story reminds us that injustice thrives in silence, but courage can break it wide open. So, what can we do? Speak up when you see wrong. Share stories like Naomi's. Demand accountability, whether it's in your town or on the national stage. Change starts with us. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment. What would you have done in Naomi's shoes? Subscribe and ring the bell for more stories that inspire and educate. Until next time, keep standing up, keep speaking out, and let's make sure no one's dignity gets left on the side of the road. This story is dedicated to General Naomi Ellsworth and every voice that refuses to be silenced.